In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Half a day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto, and pleased to welcome our guest today, Dr. Kimberlee Kihleng. She is the Executive Director of Humanities Guahan. We have Chita Blaise, the CEO of the American Red Cross Guam chapter, and Eric Tydingco is the President and CEO of Make-A-Wish Foundation for Guam and the CNMI. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Nestor.
Thank you for having us.
Half a day, Nestor.
Half a day. So the topic today is the impact of the pandemic on nonprofits and charitable organizations, particularly when it comes to fundraising. But before we get started, for the maybe one or two people out there who aren't familiar with your organizations, let me give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you guys do. And I'll start with you. Go ahead, Chita.
Well, my name is Chita Blaise. Like Nestor said, I am the CEO of the Guam chapter of the American Red Cross. And I think that the American Red Cross is probably the oldest nonprofit organization on island. We have been here for 103 years.
Wow.
Doing what we know best, saving lives.
Yeah. How about you, Kimberlee? Tell us a little bit about Humanities Guahan.
Sure. So Humanities Guahan is formerly known as Guam Humanities Council. We changed our name of our organization back in 2016 when we celebrated our 25th anniversary. We wanted to reflect more about the indigenous community here on island. So we are an independent nonprofit. We are affiliated with the National Endowment for the Humanities, which is a federal agency. So what we really do with Humanities Guahan is we try to enhance the intellectual, the civic, and the cultural life of Guam through the power of the humanities.
All right, and last but not least, Eric, Make-A-Wish.
Thanks, Nestor. The Make-A-Wish Foundation of Guam and CNMI has been granting the wishes for children with critical illnesses, not terminal, critical illnesses, for the past 31 years here in Guam and the CNMI. So and that's pretty much what we do. We grant wishes to kids with critical illnesses.
Okay. Chita, tell us a little bit about how the Red Cross nationally is dealing with this pandemic and its impact on your traditional fundraising efforts, both back in the mainland and now here in Guam.
Well, the pandemic really has affected everything about the operation of the American Red Cross, from the way we provide our first aid and CPR training. You know, now we have to adapt to the COVID-19 protocols. So it's kind of like everything has been reinvented to conform with the protocols of COVID-19. But as far as fundraising is concerned, well, as you know, the American Red Cross Guam chapter has the biggest fundraising effort that we have is coming up in September. So my board and I are trying to be creative, to come up with something to take the place of a 900 guest gala, our Red Ball that has evolved to be the most anticipated event of the year. So now we have to come up with something to take the place of that gala event, and to conform with the social distancing. We are in the kind of like a preliminary stage of creating an event that will yield us the same amount of funds, if not more, but that depends really. So we don't know. This is going to be a first. So hopefully whatever we come up with, and for sure it's going to have to be a virtual one, that it's going to be as exciting as a face-to-face gala. Now,
we
keep our fingers crossed.
So you're not considering anything involving actual people showing up at an event? You're thinking maybe virtual, or what are you?
Well, some of my board members were saying that maybe by the time September comes around, that the lockdown or the distancing would have been lifted. But Nestor, we anticipate 900 people to attend our gala. That's the number, that's the magic number that we have. I don't think it's going to be possible.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
think that the hotels are going to be ready for a 900 event gala in September. But meanwhile, we are working on a virtual Red Ball. But
Oh,
I will disclose the details of that event in the not so distant future, because we are so excited about it as well. You know,
yeah.
so this is a first. Hopefully, it's going to be successful. But you know, Guam community is just so generous, and I am optimistic that you know we will get the support of our donors during this pandemic.
I was thinking maybe a masquerade ball, you know, with a mask might be appropriate.
That's an idea, you know. Everything is on the table. Hey, I'm open for suggestions.
Everybody's wearing masks these days, so let me move on to Eric. Eric, what are some of the impacts of the pandemic on the Make-A-Wish Foundation's fundraising efforts?
Well, aside from our gala, which is, as Chita said, you know, the gala for us is our biggest fundraiser, and it's our only what we call internal fundraiser, where the board gets really involved with that. Everything else is external. So we had probably about 4 or 5 external fundraisers that were canceled after the COVID-19 situation hit our shores, and that was significant for us. Going forward, a lot of ideas trying to see what we could do to salvage our gala. And after our gala committee met, they kind of proposed a couple of ideas, but in the end, our board of directors decided that it just was not going to be conducive for us. So this year's gala event is canceled for this year. And so we're just going to have to resume for next year. So I'm going to be watching closely on how the Red Cross handles theirs, because we don't know what the situation is going to be like even next year, you know, if we're going to be out of the woods yet. And so, you know, all these other models for how we can conduct virtual fundraisers that can yield us the same type of revenue is going to be very important for us, very critical for not only for our mission, but for the operations of the foundation. And so I think that, you know, there were some ideas of having a hybrid where we had reduced capacity. Let's say we normally hold our event in the Hyatt Regency Ballroom. Capacity there is 400 to 500. Maybe we use the same amount of space, but we reduce the number of attendees by half. All these ideas are thrown together. And to their credit, the Hyatt was willing to do anything and just be very responsive to us. But I think in the end, without really knowing what those restrictions are for the number of people in public spaces, and you know, ours is in August, we had to make the decision soon that we had to cancel it.
Sure. And Dr. Kim, I understand, I guess it was a couple of months ago that Humanities Guahan put out a press release that you actually do have some program funding under the CARES Act for nonprofits. Can you talk about that?
Yes, we've been very fortunate through the CARES Act, the 2020 CARES Act, and the National Endowment for Humanities. We received a grant to give out grants to other nonprofit organizations on island who are experiencing difficulties due to the pandemic. So we announced in May a grant line for cultural and humanities-based organizations, 501c3s, to apply for grants from us. It doesn't require a match. And then in July, on July 2nd, we expanded our emergency relief grant program. So we're now offering grants or providing grant support to humanities scholars, as well as recognized traditional teachers and cultural experts to carry out planned humanities programming. And we offered that's a $5,000 grant. And we also are offering grants to other nonprofits, not necessarily cultural or humanities based, but other nonprofits who have planned cultural or humanities programs. And that's $10,000 as well. And there's no match on any of those. So we just announced this expanded one a week ago. So we're really looking forward to having a lot of applications. We have awarded 4 grants to date for over $40,000. And then we want to continue to award to other nonprofits and individuals because there's such a great need in our community. And it's all about promoting, culture, the humanities, and how that can serve to better our community.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Yeah, you mentioned you've already handed out about 40,000. Can you tell us, can you describe what some of those programs are, and also what sort of programs you're looking to support?
Right, so we gave a grant to Duk Duk Goose, right, for NIHI, for all the programming that they do. And because you can use the grant for operations as well, so it's supporting their staff, salaries, their rent, as well as some programming they're doing, trying to go from in-house programming to virtual programming. We also gave a grant to Inetnung Gef Pagu for their cultural dance program. And that's once again for salaries, for rental, as well as for changing some of their dance programming to a virtual platform as well. We gave money to Pacific Historic Parks, a grant to them for, once again, paying for scholars and experts, historians, to develop programming that can go online as well. And then we gave a grant to the organization Guahan Sustainable Culture. They're focusing on family and farming and what the cultural components of that are as well. So we gave them a grant for salaries as well as to carry out that program to provide local food to the underserved members of our community, and then the cultural aspects of those foods.
Yeah, excellent. Chita, I wanted to ask, the American Red Cross, we kind of on Guam associated with helping out the residents during times of natural disasters, those sorts of emergencies. We've got a bit of a different type of emergency right now. Not only is it a health crisis, but it's also an economic crisis. What are some of the things that the American Red Cross can do to help out residents in this specific time?
Yes, during this pandemic. Okay, so the American Red Cross is kind of like a support agency. We are not a first responder, but we are working very closely with FEMA, Guam Homeland Security, and other GovGuam agencies. And what we have been doing during this pandemic is that we supplied drinking water to Guam Homeland, Catholic Social Services, Salvation Army, and the Mayor's Council. And in addition to that, Nestor, we also provided training, first aid and CPR to the people from FEMA. And as I speak, there is ongoing training, it's 5-day module for shelter management. In the event, come on, I mean, the typhoon season is upon us. So COVID or no COVID,
why did you say that?
Typhoon season is gonna come, right? So we have been training Guam Department of Education teachers and the Mayor's Council. I think we had about 152 participants to date on shelter management. And that is done in collaboration with the other Red Cross chapters across the nation, the CNMI chapter, FEMA, and Guam Homeland Security. So it's all about, in spite of the pandemic that we are experiencing right now, it's all about getting prepared for this typhoon season. And
Yeah,
that's why it's even more critical that we really think very seriously about our fundraising effort, because the typhoon season is here.
Yeah, that's like all we need right now is a typhoon to add to all the other things that are going on. Eric,
Exactly.
Eric, I know your organization deals with more of a personal program dealing with kids that are in need, and you want to provide them with some uplifting. Speak about how that's even more important during these times when it's all kind of a sad state of affairs because of all the challenges that we're faced with.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there, Nestor. It's affected us in the ability to grant wishes for sure, because the majority of our wishes are travel wishes, and obviously with all the restrictions in place, we get our guidance from our national office. And initially, when the COVID-19 hit, the national guidance was that any travel wishes were going to be, they were on hold until the end of July. Now then it was on hold to the end of August. And now that's already being discussed as being further delayed. And so for majority of our wish kids, their wishes are on hold. Now we've gone back to some of them and asked them, and they are aware, and their parents are aware of the situation. And so we give them that option. Is there something else that you'd rather do? And this has also shaped the way that we do a wish interview going forward. Is we take like a top 5 wishes, right? And obviously we want to grant the number one wish that a child is asking for. And so we kind of go down the list and figure out is there something that we can do to still accommodate the child's desires, but yet keep them safe. And so just recently there was a child who it was a travel wish, and so she modified that to get, I think she wanted the newest iPhone 11 Pro Max, something like that. And so that's very doable for us. 3 of our board members are decision makers on the telecom companies, some of the telecom companies. So it was not a big deal for us to get that done. And for us, telling that story is very important for us, so that we continue to make sure that the public knows that we are here for the kids, and that we are still looking for the referrals for kids with critical illnesses. And so the story, our mission still continues, as is everybody else on this panel here. And I think for us, it's a little bit disheartening to know that, yes, 70% of traditionally our wishes are travel to Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. And those have to be on hold. And there are several that are on hold because we just can't grant them yet. And they just don't want to change it because they're very hopeful that they're going to be able to travel soon.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Yeah, that's very interesting, that you're kind of adapting those wishes to accommodate the situation. Do you have any other ideas to maybe do some things locally as opposed to, doing the, travel to Disneyland or that sort of thing?
Well, that's really up to the child. We can't dictate that. And really in the way we operate and the way we have to do our, what's called our wish discovery, we really try to as best as we can not influence that decision that a child's making. We encourage them to really think about what they really want. And so for us to kind of even at this point where it's we're having some of the decisions and the wishes being shaped by the pandemic situation, even that is difficult for us to try to have them change it, because we know what they want, and they've already told us. And so if they're telling us now that they want to hold off because they think it's going to change, then that's what we have to do. And so, yes, we have several in the pipeline that are just on hold. And this is just not Guam. This is throughout the entire Make-A-Wish network of chapters, that many wishes are on hold. And so, but at the same time, yes, a lot of them are aware of travel being disrupted. And so they are on themselves just kind of reaching out to us and saying, well, can we do this instead? And so that's what we do, is we're just listening. We're listening to them and trying to figure out what they want.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, I think. Dr. Kim, has the pandemic impacted anything in the way the Humanities Guahan rolls out its programs, or have you seen any changes in people and what they're applying to you for?
Well, I think I think COVID-19 has affected all of us in very different ways, perhaps, but overall, it's just been a very difficult time for everyone. We're fortunate that we did get grant funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the CARES Act, but these are very specific grants. We use them only to give out to other organizations and communities. It's not to maintain how we operate in terms of staff and our programming as well. So what we have done too, in terms of our own programming, is spent a lot of time developing our programs virtually. So we have 3 humanities programs that are running virtually right now. Our Mother Read Family Literacy program, our conversations around race and ethnicity in the Pacific, and we have a new program that we started earlier in the year, but once again, we had to change that whole program to put it online. It's called Art Plus Ideas, and it's a series of workshops that brings together the humanities and art, the actual making and doing of the art, but also the interpretation and the analysis. So we've done 2 of those workshops already online, which have been pretty successful. One with Brian Munya, the filmmaker, about visual storytelling, looking at culture and identity in Guam through storytelling. And then that was actually a 2-part workshop. And then we just started our second this past Saturday with Chita Paris. It's a writing workshop called Second Draft. And it's really about listening and writing in terms of, getting documents and pieces ready for publication. So we as ourselves as an organization has also had to really adapt to the situation that we face because of the pandemic. And also too, we need to do a lot of fundraising ourselves for our organization and our kind of general fund. So in the long term too, we will be affected just like the Red Cross and just like Make-A-Wish, because we hold usually fundraising events every other year, and they're program based. So that's going to affect us as well, because we would like to, our 30th anniversary is next year, and we'd like to do a really important celebration of our organization. So we have to figure out how best to do that. And then also we receive an appropriation from the government of Guam through the TAF money. And that's probably not going to happen anymore because of our tourist industry and the need to shut down for so many months. So over the long term, right, this pandemic will have a lot of consequences for us as an organization and our fundraising and support as well.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Yeah, I think you brought up what my next question was going to be, and I wanted to ask each of you, and let me start with you, Dr. Kim. How challenging do you think that fundraising is going to be? Because you also, rely on federal funding, which will be affected as well. Talk a little bit about how challenging you think it's going to be, and then I'll ask Chita and Eric the same question. Sure.
Well, we've been fortunate that our federal funding has not really been cut as of yet. And that may change as we go through the years to come, given the situation in the mainland United States as well. And then, for our fundraising, I mean, Guam is a very generous community, but it's also a very small community, and we have a lot of nonprofits, and each of us are, asking for support from those businesses and corporations. And our organization, Humanities Guahan, is not as well known, I guess, or understood as something like the American Red Cross or Make-A-Wish. So, I guess we're less, prominent in that way. So, it can be a struggle for us, for people to kind of really understand what we do and how we do it. And so, our fundraising efforts are much smaller, right? Because that's just the nature of who we are as an organization. But I think that will be affected in the long term, right? Because there's only so much money to go around, and there's a lot of organizations that need the support. So we'll see what happens.
Right. Chita, talk about what you think, how challenging it's going to be for the Red Cross to raise money this year.
Very, very challenging. Well, it's very challenging for one, because of the pandemic that we are in right now, but also because of the nature of the mission of the American Red Cross. I mean, our mission is such that we can't say, oh, we'll put it on hold. I mean, it's an emergency mission. So when there is a single family home fire, I mean, it should be an immediate response, regardless of what kind of economy we are in. And so that's why our fundraising effort is just so critical to the existence of the American Red Cross. We always have to be ready to respond, even if our method of responding is kind of like changed to adapt to the present pandemic protocols, but we're always there. We may be working virtually, but the mission never stops.
Yeah.
So it's always so urgent, like our service to armed forces, for instance, where we average about 500 plus messages to relay to the families of the men and women in the military. So that is so critical, and that's a matter of life and death, and that is ongoing. And then because of the pandemic, we need to put on hold our other services, like the smoke alarm installation to at-risk homes, and also our pillowcase project. We also have to adapt our first aid and CPR training to the COVID-19 protocols, where we observe distancing, and then we have to reduce the number of people that can attend the health and safety training. So all of those things have to be taken into consideration. But most importantly, though, again, the American Red Cross is not federally nor locally funded. We rely entirely on the generosity of the community. And just like what Kim said, we have about some 800 nonprofit organizations on island that we have to compete with.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric, same question to you from your perspective as the president and CEO of Make-A-Wish. How challenging do you think it's going to be for you?
No, it's just been very, very difficult to deal with. My board and I have wrestled with so many things, and really a big part of that is the sensitivity and how we approach donors. Everybody's been affected, and so how do you approach them, because that also they have been affected, and so there's a balance. There's a balance in how much to ask, because yes, we are we're suffering just like everybody else, but our the main people that have supported us at the galas and all the other fundraisers, they're not out of the woods either. A big part of the economy is tourism, and we have several companies that are affiliated with that who have been regular donors and regular supporters. And so, it's just been a real balancing act, and it's very difficult. And we do hope it changes soon. We're all hoping and praying for a vaccine soon that can somehow help us get back to some sense of normalcy. But it's challenging all the way around. As Chita said, and as Kimberlee said, or Dr. Kim, excuse me, that it is just competing for the minimal amount of dollars that are going to be out there, that are available from the public and from the business community as a whole. And so it's challenging, definitely. But we've got several good minds and on our board, and we hope to think out of the box and come up with some other things to do.
Yeah, clearly, as you guys say, it's going to be a very challenging year if it's not already. And so we wish you all best of luck, because you're all involved in some very noteworthy efforts. And, we'll just kind of hang in there and kind of hope for the best. And so best of luck to everybody. And thank you for joining us for this edition of In Full Zoom. Dr. Kimberlee Kihleng is the Executive Director of Humanities Guahan. Chita Blaise, the CEO of the American Red Cross Guam chapter, and Eric Tydingco is the president and CEO of the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Guam and the CNMI. I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next time.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.